Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Teddy, and on this channel, I'm trying to help you build a life of purpose. If you watch my videos, you will have seen that I recently created a video about how to create a list of intentions for 2026. I recently did my own, and one of those items on my list was to design and implement a stretching routine that I could use for the rest of my life. This video will be broken down into three parts. Part one will be about why I'm even doing this. Part two will be the process that I used to create this stretching routine, and I'll actually show you the routine. And then part three will be teaching you how to create your own routine. Without further ado, let's get into it. Part one. So, the story behind how I even got here, why I decided to create my own stretching routine. I was reading a book called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, a former Navy SEAL. And this is an incredible story about his life and the mountains that he has overcome throughout his entire life. As a result of pushing his body to his limits, he eventually reached a point in his life where he felt broken. And he was even at a point where he thought he was dying. But he realized that the issue after going to see a doctor was that he was just tight. His doctor told him that he was the tightest person that he'd ever seen, and that he probably need to log thousands of hours of stretching just to be able to unwind and undo everything that he had put his body through over the last years. I'm a very active person, not on a Navy SEAL level, but I use my body every single day, and I've been doing so for the majority of my life. I'm very fortunate because most of the time I do not experience any type of pain within my body. But I realized when thinking about this book and what I've put my own body through that I don't need to wait to get to the point where I am experiencing pain. I could design a stretching routine to mitigate any injuries that might occur if I continue to not stretch. I can get ahead of any issues that would occur in general by being a very physical and active person. So that's where I had this idea. And it's been in my mind for a little over a year now. And so I decided to add it to my list because I wanted to be serious about it. And I wanted it to be something that I incorporated into my weekly life and actually helped me with the physical activities that I engage in all the time. So then I began thinking about what might a stretching routine look like in my life. I know there's so much information online, there's so many challenges and things that are framed as hacks. I'm not a fan of those things because I think when it comes to creating lasting habits and to implementing things into your life, it requires playing the long game. It requires understanding who you are as a person, your identity, and figuring out your why. My why is because I want to lead a healthy lifestyle. Well being is a major component of my YouTube channel here, and creating a stretching routine that I know would be good for my body and would help me with the activities that I'm already engaging in made perfect sense. It was simply a matter of thinking what kind of a routine would benefit me. And then it was a matter of sitting down and thinking about where I could integrate this new part of my routine into my daily life. Going into this process, which I just started a week ago, I knew that if I could be successful at it and I could implement it and do this for the rest of my life, I would be doing myself a favor and be getting ahead in a way. So if by some chance the stars have aligned, you are like-minded and you are interested in implementing a routine like this into your own life, stick around so that you can see my process, my actual routine, and I'll teach you how to create yours. Part two. This is my process and how I built my own stretching routine. I started out with curiosity, not commitment. I didn't want to jump the gun, go 0 to 100, and immediately commit to something that I didn't fully understand or that didn't match who I was as a person. So I started researching. It started with David Goggins and his book. I decided to look up David Goggins on YouTube and to see if he actually talked about the routine that he used. And to my surprise, in his book and on YouTube or any other place on the internet that I searched, he doesn't really outline what he does for his routine. And on top of that, I know that he was a former Navy SEAL and he's breaking Guinness World Records and he's doing a lot of crazy things that I'm not doing. So a routine of David Goggins wouldn't necessarily match my own. However, in that process of looking up his routine, I came across a guy named Joe Hippenstill. Joe Hippenstill is a former decathlete and a master of physiokinesiology. And I learned a lot about his method, which is stretching based on performance. That sounded like it aligned perfectly with who I am. I spend 4 days out of the week going to the gym. I surf 5 to 7 times per week. I try to fit in runs whenever I feel is necessary. I do yoga. I ride my bike. I'm on my feet all day as a teacher. And then when I'm not teaching, I'm usually traveling somewhere, which requires sitting on planes, going on hikes, and doing all of these things. So to say the least, a routine that helps with performance sounded perfect to me. In addition to Joe Hippensteel, I looked up other stretching routines on YouTube. There is an insane amount of information and videos on YouTube that give you ideas of stretches, but they all have their own unique purpose and result. I came across another guy called the knees over toes guy, but in the end, I think I was most closely aligned with Joe Hippensteel's method. After that, I began thinking about, okay, what parts of my body do I want to focus on? What parts of my body do I feel the most tight in? And what parts of my body, if I were to stretch them out and they were to get stronger and looser, would help me as I am performing and being active? So the areas of my body that I settled on are my back, my hips, and my legs, and my arms. As I was doing all this research, it started to become a little bit clearer in my mind, and the whole time I'm taking notes. I started writing down potential stretching exercises that I liked and wanted to try and could potentially incorporate into my routine. And then when it came time, I decided to choose 8 actual stretches and I tested it out. I wanted to see how long it would take. I wanted to see how it would feel doing those exercises, and then I made tweaks and adjustments based on those things. One thing that was really important and something that I'd like you to keep in mind as you design your own routine and test it out is how you're feeling while you're doing it. Not only in terms of pain in your body, but are you actually enjoying the exercise? When it comes to creating routines and designing habits and all of these things, which you have heard me talk about a lot on this channel, you need to be able to enjoy it. The more you enjoy something, the more likely you are to repeat that behavior. And so when I was doing some of these stretches early on, there were some that I just wasn't really enjoying, or I didn't feel like were challenging me enough, or I didn't really feel like they were going to do anything for me. And so I axed those and I found other exercises that worked for me. So in the end, I have a routine that is 8 different exercises and it lasts 24 minutes. I love the fact that it's 24 minutes because it feels very reasonable. It feels like I can squeeze that in if I'm in between things or I'm busy. And I also love my routine because one of my goals was to make sure that I could do it anywhere and that I didn't need any type of equipment. I could do it here in my living room. I could do it while I'm waiting for something. I could do it while I'm on a plane. I could do it while I'm traveling. I could do it at the gym. I could do it on the beach. It doesn't matter where I am. I could use this routine as a tool and just execute it anytime that I needed or wanted to. So basically how it works, and this is based on part of Joe Hippensteel's philosophy, is you do the stretches for 2 minutes at a time, and then you rest for 1 minute. So that gives you 8 stretches at 2 minutes, a total of 16 minutes, and then a 1 minute rest in between those 8 stretches, which is another 8 minutes. 8 and 16 is 24 minutes. That's how we get to the total. Lastly, since I love habits and thinking about habits, I wanted to ensure that this stuck. Admittedly, I've tried stretching before and I've hit up friends and asked them for ideas and I tried them out. A couple weeks later, it already faded and it just didn't stick. I really, really want this to stick. I'm only a week in, but I'm making this video, 1, to keep myself accountable, and 2, because I'm serious about designing and implementing this because I want to improve my well-being. So to ensure that this sticks, I thought of 2 different things. I thought of first, being specific about when I'm going to do this in my day. My days are pretty jam-packed. I'm pretty busy. And so I had to think carefully about when I was going to insert it into my day to make sure that I never missed. And that time is immediately after work when I get home and before I go to the gym. When I get home from work, I usually eat a snack and then I let that snack digest a little bit. It gives me a bit of energy and then I go to the gym. So I thought it would have been perfect if I eat this snack, I do my 24-minute stretch routine, the food is digesting, and then I go to the gym. The second thing that I did to ensure that this habit actually sticks is I anchor it. I habit stack, which is a method that comes up in Atomic Habits and a lot of other habits books that increases the likelihood that this habit will actually stick, that you do this behavior over and over again, attaching it to another habit, usually in succession. And so putting this routine right before the gym also was me combining them. It made perfect sense because it was going to make me feel loose. It was going to make working out even safer for me so that I didn't have any types of injuries, and it fit in quite nicely. Now I'd like to show you the actual routine. I'm only going to show you what the stretches look like. I'm not going to do the whole 24-minute routine because who wants to watch that? So let's take a look. So as I was researching Joe Hippenstill's method, one thing that I liked was that he didn't come up with any crazy names for these stretches. He really just named the stretches based on the actual movements that you were doing. So the first stretch that I'm going to share from my own stretching routine is legs crossed, reach over.
My goal as I do this stretch is to breathe consistently, long, slow, deep breaths, and to focus on the sensation that I feel in my hips and my lower lumbar, which is the focus of this exercise. Taking deep breaths and slowly inching further with my hands and just unraveling.
The second stretch will be lying on your back, one leg crossed over, and that's going to work your hips and your lower lumbar and part of your back. Look the opposite direction of the leg that is over your body. And then as you're doing so, you can apply some pressure with your hands to the top of your leg to try and get your leg closer to the ground. And then you also do the same thing to the other side. And just relax. Let your body fall deeper into these stretches. For the third stretch, we're going to call it sitting on your knees and leaning backwards. This is one of the stretches that I was most excited for because I realized that it was quite difficult for me and I'm very tight. So I'm really hoping and looking forward to the fact that when I stick to this routine, when I stick to this routine, I will eventually loosen up and I'll be able to lean all the way back till my back is actually touching the floor, and then I'll be able to return to the original position. So I'll show you this stretch, which focuses on your quads and your hip flexors. Super, super important. And you'll be able to see how tight I am. For the fourth stretch, this takes me back all the way to elementary school. I'm going to lace my hands behind my back and pull upwards, or as we used to call it in elementary, backwards tabletop. This is also an exciting one for me because I'm unbelievably tight. I don't know if it's because of my muscles or just because I did not do this stretch enough growing up, but I know I have a lot of work to do on this particular stretch. And it excites me because after a year of staying consistent with this routine, I'm sure to see results, more mobility, more strength, and that in turn should help me in all of my activities. So this is what it looks like from a side view. Normally you'd be doing this standing up, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to do it sitting down. You can see how tight I am. As you're standing up, it's helpful to find a surface where you can rest your hands and then kind of start to squat and get lower so that you can push your tabletop even higher and really get a deep stretch. That's going to help you with your delts and your back and your arms for a stretch. The fifth stretch in my routine is to extend your legs and grab your toes. Another childhood exercise, pretty basic stretch that mostly everyone knows and has done. This one is going to work your hamstrings, and I definitely wanted to include this one because I have always felt like I've been tight in this, and I just think it would be cool to be incredibly flexible and to be able to go all the way down to the floor, maybe touch my nose with my knees. So there you have it. I'm almost there. The sixth stretch in my routine will be to lean over and lay on top of one crossed leg. This stretch will focus on your hips and your glutes. In any of these stretches that only focus on one side, obviously you'll switch to the other side. The seventh stretch in my routine is to do a split on one knee, lean forward, and then to add a degree of difficulty, Bring your back foot up and hold it with your hand. So by taking a look at this stretch, you can see that I'm really pulling out my hip flexor and my quads in this one. This one feels really good for me. And I love the added degree of difficulty. The eighth and final stretch of my routine, I'm actually still playing around with. I have two options that I'm in between. I've experimented with both, but I'm still a little undecided. Right now, I'm alternating between the two, but eventually I want to choose just one of the two and stick to that. The first of those two is extending one leg crossed over, and then turning backwards. So that's a stretch for the back. And then the second stretch that I've been switching with is actually the backwards tabletop. I love that one so much, and I'm really determined to loosen that part of my body up that I decided to do it twice in my stretching routine at times. I'm unsure if I want to do that or if I just stick to the back exercise that I just showed you. They're both great, but I'm still working on that. One of the great things about holding myself accountable to this video is I'm going to do a check-in video, maybe in 1 month, maybe in 3 months, but I'm expecting to see progress. And hopefully you'll have seen how tight I am in this video, and you will have seen how maybe less tight or more loose I am in the next video. Part 3. So here are my tips to create your own stretching routine. First, start small. It doesn't matter what habit you're trying to build or incorporate into your life. You need to start small. That is how real change occurs. If you come up with a routine that is too elaborate or takes way too long, then there's a likelihood that it's not going to stick or that you won't take it seriously. The second tip is to make enjoyment non-negotiable. So I mentioned the importance of enjoying what you're doing because that will ensure that you want to repeat the behavior. And if you repeat the behavior, then it becomes encoded in your mind and you don't have to worry about thinking or about actually doing this action anymore. It'll just feel like it's a part of you and you can just go through the flow. The third tip that I have for you is to design it for yourself. If this is simply copying someone else or it doesn't feel like it's aligned with you or if you don't feel like it's benefiting you, then what's the purpose? What's your why? Think about your why. Think about the parts of your body that you want to loosen up or that would be beneficial for you. And then lastly, be very specific about the time that you're going to do this stretching routine. As I mentioned, I was very specific. I anchored it and I created a habit stack to make sure that I didn't miss, that it became a natural part of my routine and that it made sense for me. What part of your day does it make sense to do your routine? Is it when you first wake up? Is it before or after the gym? Or when you're going running? Is it right before you go to sleep? Is it on a work break? Whatever time it may be, choose that time intentionally and then stick to it. To conclude, my call to action for you is not to design the best routine that you can think of. It's to design a routine that fits you. Let me remind you, you don't need to be experiencing pain to implement a routine like this in your life. You can get ahead of any potential future pain you may be experiencing, and you can treat your body in a nice way by stretching consistently, week in and week out. I promise you that if you nail this habit now, you will thank yourself 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. That's my plan. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And when I am much, much older and hopefully feeling good, I'll smile back on this moment knowing that I cared enough about the well-being of my body and understood the importance of taking care of my body. Thanks for tuning into my video. If you're interested in other health-related videos, check out this video that's linked here from the health section of my channel, and I'll see you in next week's video.